Hello everyone. I would like to, thanks for the introduction as well as I would like to just add a couple of things as Dr. Singh has already instructed that I should be summing up quickly. So without wasting the time, I'll directly go to the respective sites. As we have already been discussing about the various certification schemes, this is just a slide to show that what is the voluntary, regulatory and bilateral agreement treaties signed in terms of the certification schemes. This slide clearly indicates, as the previous speakers have already informed about the voluntary schemes, regulatory, and the bilateral has not been discussed, but that is the Montreal process only available across the globe. That is to save the boreal forest that is consisting of 90% of the boreal forest in that area. So our concern is actually that we are all talking and discussing about the differences, maybe not the differences, but kind of a mechanism where the certification and the sustainability could be measured and we should achieve the sustainability. I would definitely like to say and support the word what Dr. Kulkarni said that why we are trying to achieve sustainability. We are already sustainable. We are talking about the agroforestry systems nowadays. Agroforestry systems, when we talk about agro, means the agriculture, that is the cropping systems. Cropping systems have been sustainable ever since. And we are introducing the forestry because we have already taken out the forest from that areas. So this is something which we are blending the things. And we have tried an attempt in the past. And I would like to give an example that what we have been doing. So just a nutshell that what basically the certification body is or how does it work for. Certification is there are different standards where the certification bodies can be certified with, and there are the schemes, there are the stakeholders, the scheme owners are there who are the manufacturers, operators, deliver of the product, process services. Then there is a customer. There are international schemes where the guidelines are being provided for the product certification services as well as the groups, different schemes. When we say a schemes owner can be the certified body, certification body, governmental authority, or trade associations. In this sense, we have already said that when it is a voluntary, it can be a third party. It can also be a regulatory scheme where the government is the certifying body. And then it can be a trade association like CII when they give an assurance or endowment or the endorsement of the schemes being followed by the industries. With the certification schemes, instead of wasting a lot of time in explaining the things again and again, I would like to simply say that without a certification scheme, certainly, yes, there is no information about the criteria of compliance with which the product or process or the service can be certified. So there is the information that Dr. Singh was also emphasizing that, yes, we do not have any good source of information or the platform where everything can be connected or collected from a platform and from one side, like an archiving document, we can say. Additional requirements beyond IS or IEC, this has been implemented or introduced in the recent time frame uh, where the recognition of the testing, inspections, auditing, or the auditing body and specifications on how to demonstrate that a product, process, or service is certified by a legitimate body. This has been introduced recently with the revision of the requirements of ISO IEC 17065. Schemes may or may not include surveillance. So it's not like whenever we talk about surveillance, there might be different objective of the certification. Certainly, let's say we are exporting a timber or timber product, and that export is only one time. So we do not need to go for the surveillance for many times. But most of the certification schemes, especially the international certification schemes, kind of make a burden on the client or the producer that they have to go and maintain the certification. For me, these are all, these are all my personal experiences or personal opinion on this, that it's not necessary that we should have the surveillance for all these schemes. For maintaining the sustainability or attaining a sustainability view of any certification, yes, surveillance is must. But for one-time activity or just with a different centric approach of the certification, that may be the objective centric or the product centric or the marketing centric, like a marketing tool. Certainly surveillance may be or may not be required. For standard references, this will give an idea that most of the certification schemes are, or the certification bodies have to follow the norms with different schemes like ISO, IES 17065, 17067, 17021 for assessing certification bodies to ensure that they are competent and conform to all types of management systems. Also, when we talk about the chain of custody, or when we talk about the general terms and conditions or definitions of the conformity assessment, we can say, or the certification schemes, we can say, we can definitely follow 17,000 to 2004. Wherein the chain of custody, there are 5 different types of chain of custody models are available, and it's not mandatory that we should follow only one trend of chain of custody. No, we can definitely go for 20095, 2020, and we can opt that if our certification is objective centric, it should be one-time activity, and we are we are developing all the templates and getting verified by a third party, or self-declaring the things. It's just a one-time activity. For that, we do not need to have a chain of custody, which is applicable in case of surveillances, or which is in case of maintaining a long trail of chain. So in that sense, there are the ways where the different, like one of them is a batch process, where most of the sawn timber are being processed through batch process. That is also kind of a chain of custody or the segregation method, and through which this can be classified. Also, with interacting sustainability within the procurement, certainly yes. Now this is a need of the hour most of the time, and when we talk about the sustainable development goals, yes, we have to consider the sustainability as a paramount on the certification scheme, and we should consider the requirements as per 20,400, 2017, or ISO 26,000. The layout of the standard, which we have been trying with Dr. Singh to develop a standard, most of the other members who have been into the certification agencies or the bodies are working towards or around the same field, already know about the structure of this layout of the certification. I mean, the standard we are talking about. So normative references, general requirements, structural requirements, resource requirements, process requirements. As in the past discussion, it was being discussed about IPRITI or any other independent authority. Yes, the format has to be, I mean, the structure has to be maintained, and also the resources has to be dedicated to certification or the standard development only. Annex 1 of any standard or the development indicates and has been now introduced in a better way that the principles of product certification bodies or their certification activities, their general impartiality, competence, confidentiality, and openness, responsiveness to complaints and appeals and responsibility shall be included now to make a very robust system. Annex B clearly indicates about the application of the international standard for processes and services, and the other one is for the product services. So this way, the layout of the certification scheme can, certification of the standards can be developed to ascertain that the requirements are fulfilled and are in line with the international standards. The certificate assurance or the authorization can be given by, as we discussed in the voluntary system, by the third parties, or the regulatory system with the government agencies, or in the blending structure where it can also be endorsed. So what we have to really do is we have to do a selection, then the determination which certification we should go for, then the evaluation is to be conducted. From the evaluation, the review, attestation, and surveillance. So after the review, the attestation is done, whereby the issuance of a certificate is done in the first year. And then if you want to maintain the certification for the next years, you can go for the surveillance. Sustainability and legality assurances. There have been some ideas or the concepts which we were been looking into, where we had tried to develop the zero draft. We will, I mean, Dr. Singh will help you to explain that much in detail. So we have considered legality. I'm not going to go into much details again, because we have been already discussed about some aspects. I will definitely go like in the traceability. Now with the EUTR has been like, this was the European Union timber regulation has now been revised or reviewed their biodiversity aspects of that, and then they are going for the revision of the same with the deforestation aspect. So now the deforestation is being introduced along with the 6 more commodities like coffee, cocoa, palm oil, and soya, like that. So these agriculture commodities are also being introduced in the same framework of the EU TR, now been replaced by EU DR, which is a European Union deforestation regulation. So in this, timber is already a part, but other commodities will also be there. So there is actually, again, I'm saying that is going to be a blending of certification or blending of the compliances of the structure. So traceability in the framework, we have discussed about the geo reference, where you can find that where the timber or the any product which has been sourced from. Uh, I will discuss something about in the group discussion the group certification schemes. Before that, it's a self-declaration. We can also provide an option of the self-declaration of the source of origin to minimize second or third party monitoring. For us, if we want to go for a compliance, it's not mandatory that all the time it should be a second or third party monitoring should be there, which is basically incurring a lot of cost, especially for the logistics, the travel, the documentation, and also the decision making. So one should be accountable, and that's why the idea is accountable for their own products not meeting the traceability requirements. So if the products are not actually meeting the traceability requirements, not the second or third party, but the producer or the manufacturer themselves are accountable, and they shall be. And that's basically the idea where when we go for any licensing scheme, we have to demonstrate whether our system is in place so that to attain or maintain a certification or the license scheme. Implementation of appropriate system or tools to ensure robust traceability checks. Certainly, yes, you have to go for a proper robust system of the traceability. And again, I say, and I repeat that we can go for different chain of custody or the segregation methods. It's not mandatory that we have to follow the same which has been followed for different commodities also. Land tenure rights verification. This has been a very difficult aspect whenever we want to deal with the agroforestry or with the group schemes or the farm forestry. So there are some guidelines given in the regulatory requirements. That can be voluntary guidelines or otherwise can be regulatory requirements as in Government of India's perspective. Fiscality, all the taxes, fees paid in time, the transparency as mechanism or tool should be demonstrated to fiscal and traceable information in public. That means the system should be demonstrated in such a way, or the company should come forward, or the industry should come forward to demonstrate that they are into this framework where they are procuring the sustainable timber, or they are procuring the best and they are adopting the best acceptable policies of or the best practices as per the international or national standards. Publicly available supply chain control procedures, which we are working on kind of a system where the electronic tool will be helpful for the industries, and it will be available to use. Harvested or procured volume, pesticide application policy, health and safety procedure, etc. These should be transparent. These should be provided in public also, that what they are going to use. Are they using the right methods of, let's say, pruning, or they're using any kind of forest management activities? They should clearly be indicated in the policies also. The environment protection, is again that no harvesting above 40% of the slope shall be done. The mangrove areas should definitely be taken into due cognizance, very close to watercourse, or we should say that these should be the harvesting, there should be no harvesting or the exclusion zones. Measures to mitigate adverse impact on human health, contaminated water sources, food crops, and the environment due to inappropriate or improper use of pesticide, use of biocontrol agents. So these are the things which are now coming as not as a part of, we can say, the system, the certification, but yes, they are mandatory and they are required to mitigate the risk of the unsustainable cropping patterns. Human rights, certainly, yes, as Dr. Kulkarni has already spoken about it. Accountability, I again would like to say, disclosure of harvesting cycles, rotation age, minimum girth or diameter at harvesting. For me, if we consider a monocropping or monoculture of any species, Why we are talking about the sustainability for the perennial crops? Yes, we have to talk about that. And what we can say, once a crop is attaining its rotation, that automatically is sustainable. Similarly, like crops, various crops, when we talk about the Kharif or Rabi crops, when we talk about, or we talk about any species which is like can be harvested in 1 year or two, like banana we can talk about, or something like that when talk about the commercial crops. So there is a rotation age. Once that rotation age is completed or finished, that automatically becomes sustainable, because you are going to do the same thing again in the same on the same land. Extend support towards reforestation and afforestation schemes. That is again the accountability of the industry. They should definitely come forward to help the government institutions as well as the private institutions to grow more and more timber, what we have been discussing. Social responsibility, unfortunately, in Indian perspective, it has been the very lesser heard things that no agri-wood is procured in violation of social obligations. We have to really identify whether the agri-wood is being procured in the violation or not. A lot of experiences during my previous auditing tenure, I have found that there has been severe or several violations, especially in the procurement of agri-wood. I do not want to name the organizations, but yes, big players are already all are also there, that they were not directly procuring the timber from the forest field or the farmer's field, but they were procuring through the traders. And there is a gap that traders actually do not care about any social obligations or procurement policies. Contractual agreement must be enforced before procurement procedures starts. This is something which we can work together, that the social, like contract farming, most of the paper industries are already doing it, and they have been successful in doing this. And I think we can definitely put in place some kind of mechanisms or the parameters where the performance indicators can be indicated or the index can be set for an improvement thing. I mean, for the improvements.